The moment before death. The alien girl closed her eyes and waited to die. Around her, thousands of refugees stood in silent rows on the floating platform above the ruined world of Lyrian. The once beautiful planet turned slowly beneath the glass floor, but now its oceans were dark and its continents burned with scars of war. The war had ended only 3 days ago, and the VHI Empire had won. The conquerors watched the refugees with cold patience. Tall figures in glowing armor walked between the lines while scanning tablets floated beside them. Blue light shimmered around their bodies like quiet storms. To them, the refugees were not people. They were cargo. Some would become workers. Some would be relocated. Some would simply disappear. The alien girl understood this very well. She was young, maybe 16 cycles old, but the war had aged her faster than time ever could. Her name was Lyra, and she was completely alone. She had watched the sky burn when the invasion fleet arrived. She had watched her city fall in a single night. She had watched her parents vanish when the VHI soldiers entered their home. Now she stood on a metal platform in space, waiting for the final step of defeat. So she closed her eyes. If she didn't see it happen, maybe it would hurt less. But then something impossible happened. A quiet voice spoke beside her. "Excuse me." A human appears. No one noticed the human at first. Which was strange, because humans almost never appeared in the center of Imperial space. Yet there he was, standing casually near the refugee line like someone who had accidentally walked into the wrong room. He looked ordinary, average height, dark hair, a long travel coat that looked worn and dusty from too many journeys. He carried a small satchel across his shoulder. No weapons, no armor, just a calm expression and curious eyes. The VHI guards turned toward him slowly. One of them tilted his long glowing head. "A human," the guard said. Another guard frowned. "What are you doing here?" The man glanced around the platform as if he had just realized where he was. "Oh," he said politely. "Is this the refugee intake line?" The guards stared at him. One of them actually laughed. "Yes," the guard said slowly. "It is." "Are you lost, human?" The man scratched the back of his neck. "Possibly." The refugees nearby exchanged confused looks. Humans were known across the galaxy for being strange. But walking casually into a refugee processing station controlled by the VHI Empire? That was not just strange. That was suicidal. The girl who had already given up. Lyra opened her eyes. She hadn't meant to. But the human's voice had sounded different. Not afraid. Not angry. Just normal. She turned slightly and saw him standing only a few steps away. He wasn't looking at the guards. He was looking at her. And smiling. The smile wasn't mocking. It wasn't pity. It was warm. Like he had just spotted a friend across a crowded room. The human took one small step closer. "Hey," he said softly. The guards immediately moved forward. "Stop there." Energy rifles hummed as they activated. The human froze. "Right," he said calmly. "No sudden movements." The refugees held their breath. The VHI Empire was not known for patience. Yet the human didn't seem worried. Instead, he tilted his head slightly and looked back at Lyra. "You okay?" he asked. The question was so unexpected that she didn't know how to answer. No one had asked her that since the war began. Her voice came out small. "I don't know." The guards stepped closer. "This conversation is over," one officer said. "Return to your vessel immediately." The human blinked. "Oh. I don't actually have a vessel." That made the guards pause. "You arrived here without authorization." "Well," the human said slowly. "Yes." The guards raised their weapons higher. "You are trespassing in Imperial territory." "Technically," the human replied, "I'm visiting." The most dangerous thing a human can do. One of the guards activated a communication device. "Security," he said. "We have a situation." The human sighed quietly. "Yeah," he murmured. That usually happens. Then something very strange occurred. A small device inside the human satchel made a soft beeping sound. The guards froze. Their armor lights flickered. Across the platform, dozens of holographic screens suddenly appeared in the air. Alien text scrolled rapidly. Warning symbols flashed. The guards looked confused. What is happening? One demanded. The human checked his wristwatch. He said. Right on schedule. The guard turned sharply toward him. You did this. Technically, the human said again. Yes. The officer's voice hardened. You have interfered with an Imperial refugee processing system. The human smiled slightly. I know. That smile made the guards uneasy. Across the galaxy, humans had a reputation. They were not the strongest species. They were not the oldest civilization. They were not the most advanced. But humans had one dangerous trait that every empire eventually learned the hard way. Humans were creative. And creative people were very difficult to control. A quiet whisper. The guards moved toward the human. But before they could grab him, the platform lights suddenly dimmed. Emergency alarms began echoing through the station. Far above the platform, several enormous carrier ships shifted slightly in orbit. Confusion spread through the VHI officers. What is causing this disruption? The human leaned slightly toward Lyra. No one else noticed the movement. His voice was almost too quiet to hear. Hey, he whispered. She looked up at him. Her silver eyes were tired. Broken. He studied her face for a moment. Then he said 4 simple words. Come with me. She blinked. What? The guards were shouting now. System warnings continued flashing everywhere. The human extended his hand. His voice stayed calm. Trust me. Lyra looked at the glowing armored soldiers. At the terrified refugees. At the ruined planet below. There was nothing left for her here. Nothing except slavery. Or death. Her heart beat once. Twice. Then slowly. She reached for the human's hand. And the moment their fingers touched, the lights on the platform went completely dark. Darkness across the platform. The moment the lights went out, chaos erupted across the refugee platform. Emergency alarms screamed through the metal structure like wounded machines. Red warning lights flickered along the ceiling while the transparent floor dimmed, turning the ruined planet below into a faint ghost of dark oceans and broken continents. The VHI guards shouted orders. Power disruption detected. Secure the refugees. Locate the human. But in the confusion, they could not see clearly. And that was exactly what the human had planned. Lyra felt a strong hand pull her forward. Stay close, the human whispered. She could barely see him in the darkness, but she followed anyway. Something about his voice carried quiet certainty, like someone walking through a storm who already knew the way out. Around them, frightened refugees whispered and crouched low while guards rushed in different directions trying to restore control. The human moved calmly through the confusion. Almost casually. Like someone who had practiced this moment many times before. Lyra's heart pounded. Who are you? She asked quietly. Name's Elias Carter, he replied. And we really should keep moving. The trick behind the chaos. They reached the edge of the refugee platform where several maintenance corridors connected to the main station ring. Most refugees never even noticed these narrow doors. But Elias did. He opened a small device from his satchel. It looked like an old metal coin with faint blinking lights around the edges. Lyra stared. What is that? Elias grinned slightly. A distraction. He tapped the device once. Far above them, one of the massive VHI carrier ships suddenly flickered with strange energy surges. Blue lights rippled across its hull while dozens of warning signals spread through the entire orbital network. The guards panicked. Fleet navigation systems are malfunctioning. Carrier 3 reporting signal interference. Internal communications disrupted. Lyra looked up through the glass floor in shock. You did that. Elias shrugged. Technically. But how? She asked. The VHI systems are extremely advanced, Elias said while walking quickly down the corridor. But they all share the same weakness. What weakness? He smiled again. They are predictable. Humans do things differently. They entered the narrow maintenance hallway. Pipes and cables ran along the walls while dim emergency lights blinked softly overhead. Behind them, the chaos on the refugee platform grew louder. Guards were searching. And they would find the missing human soon. Lyra walked beside Elias, still confused. You came all this way, for me. Elias shook his head. No. Her heart sank slightly. Then he continued. I came for everyone. She stopped walking. What? Elias turned and looked at her. His eyes were calm, but there was something powerful behind them. Humans have a rule, he said. If someone bullies the weak, we usually show up. Lyra frowned. But the VHI Empire defeated our entire civilization. Yeah, Elias said. I saw the reports. They destroyed our defense fleets in hours, she said. They have thousands of warships. Also true, Elias replied. And yet you still came here. Elias leaned against the corridor wall and gave a small shrug. Humans are bad at accepting impossible odds. The secret hidden in the satchel. Footsteps echoed somewhere behind them. The guards were searching the station now. Elias opened his satchel again and pulled out a thin tablet covered in glowing symbols. It projected a holographic map of the entire orbital platform. Lyra gasped. You hacked their system. Borrowed it. Elias corrected. The map displayed dozens of blinking red icons representing VHI security teams. They'll reach this corridor in 2 minutes, he said. Her stomach tightened. What do we do? Elias zoomed out the hologram. Beyond the platform, hundreds of tiny signals appeared across space. Small ships. Hidden. Silent. Lyra stared in disbelief. What are those? Elias's smile widened. Friends. Human ships. Mostly. Mostly. He pointed to several unfamiliar signals. Some belong to traders. Some belong to smugglers. And some belong to species the VHI Empire made very angry over the years. Lyra looked at him with growing realization. You're not alone. Nope. How many ships are there? Elias glanced at the numbers. About 300. Her eyes widened. That's still nothing compared to the VHI fleet. True, Elias said. But humans rarely win wars with bigger guns. He tapped another control. Across the map, dozens of new signals appeared inside the station itself. Hidden devices. Sabotage units. Communication disruptors. Lyra whispered slowly. You were planning this the whole time. Elias closed the hologram. Let's just say humans are good at planning surprises. The Empire learns the truth. Suddenly, the entire station trembled. Not violently, but enough to make the metal walls hum. Outside the corridor windows, faint flashes appeared across space. The hidden fleet had begun moving. VHI command ships instantly reacted. Weapons powered up. Fighters launched. But something strange happened. Their targeting systems failed. Navigation systems froze. Communication channels scrambled. The sabotage devices Elias had planted weeks earlier were activating one by one. Across the orbital station, VHI officers shouted in confusion. Navigation error. Fleet coordination lost. Internal systems compromised. And for the first time since the war began, the mighty VHI Empire was completely disorganized. Elias checked his watch again. Right on time. Lyra looked at him with disbelief. You're starting a battle. Technically, Elias said calmly. Yes. A human promise. More footsteps echoed down the corridor. Security teams were getting closer. Elias opened a small emergency door at the end of the hallway. Cold air rushed inside. Beyond it waited a tiny shuttle hidden inside a maintenance dock. Its engines glowed softly. "Get in," Elias said. Lyra hesitated. "What about the refugees?" Elias looked back toward the platform where thousands still waited under guard. His expression changed. The casual smile faded. A new determination replaced it. "Don't worry," he said. "This part is just the beginning." Beginning of what? Elias stepped into the shuttle cockpit. The part where humans do something very stupid. He powered up the engines. And save everyone anyway. Outside the station, hundreds of hidden ships suddenly ignited their engines. The rebellion had begun. And the VHI Empire had just learned the most dangerous truth in the galaxy. Humans never walk into impossible situations by accident. They walk in with a plan. The battle that should not exist. The small shuttle shot out of the maintenance dock like a spark escaping a fire. Behind it, the massive refugee platform drifted in orbit while confusion spread through the VHI fleet. Their enormous warships rotated slowly, trying to lock targets that their computers could no longer track correctly. Inside the shuttle cockpit, Elias guided the controls with calm precision. Lyra sat beside him, staring through the window at the impossible sight unfolding across space. Hundreds of small ships were appearing from behind asteroids, hidden satellites, and silent cloaking fields. None of them were large. None of them were impressive. But they moved with perfect coordination. "Those ships," Lyra whispered. "They're too small to fight the VHI fleet." Elias smiled slightly. "That's the idea." The human fleet spread outward like a cloud of metal sparks. They avoided direct attack routes, instead flying in strange curved paths around the massive VHI carriers. Lyra watched in confusion. "They're not attacking." "Not yet," Elias said. One of the VHI carriers fired first. A powerful beam of blue energy flashed through space, destroying one of the approaching ships instantly. The explosion lit the darkness. Lyra gasped. "They are killing them." Elias nodded slowly. "Yeah. But watch closely. The human way of war." The destroyed ship had only been a drone. As it exploded, dozens of small devices scattered outward like metallic seeds drifting through space. The nearest VHI ship immediately pulled those fragments into its gravity field. And that was exactly what the humans wanted. Seconds later, the fragments activated. Tiny sabotage units attached themselves across the carrier's hull. Communications arrays went silent. Weapon systems shut down. Navigation thrusters failed. Within moments, one of the most powerful warships in the VHI fleet drifted helplessly in orbit. Lyra stared in disbelief. "You tricked them." Elias chuckled softly. "Humans rarely fight fair." Across the battlefield, the same tactic repeated again and again. Human drones approached the larger ships. The VHI destroyed them. The fragments attached themselves. And one by one, the giant warships stopped working. Within minutes, the VHI fleet realized something terrible. Their size had become their weakness. The moment the refugees realized. Back on the refugee platform, the remaining civilians watched the battle through the transparent floor. At first they thought it was another VHI operation. But slowly they began to understand. The giant ships of the Empire were drifting powerless. Smaller vessels surrounded them. And then something even more surprising happened. Human transport ships arrived. Dozens of them. They approached the platform without firing a single weapon. Inside the shuttle cockpit, Elias watched the scene on his screen. "Phase 2, he said. Lyra leaned forward. "What's Phase 2? Elias tapped a communication switch. Across the station, emergency speakers suddenly activated. The voice that echoed through the platform was calm and clear. "Attention refugees of Lyrian. This is the human coalition fleet. We are here to evacuate you." Silence spread through the station. The refugees could barely believe what they had heard. The VHI guards shouted in anger and tried to regain control. But their armor systems were failing. Their weapons refused to activate. The sabotage devices hidden throughout the station had done their work perfectly. The Empire was losing control. And for the first time since the war began, hope returned. The truth about humans. Inside the shuttle, Lyra turned toward Elias. You planned all of this. He shook his head. Not just me. Then who? Lots of people. Engineers. Hackers. Smugglers. Angry farmers. Retired pilots. And one very stubborn human admiral. Lyra blinked. You built an entire rescue operation. Yep. But why? Elias looked out the window at the ruined planet slowly turning below. Because someone had to. She studied him quietly. But the VHI Empire will come after humanity now. They already were, Elias said. So we figured we might as well give them a reason. The Empire's final mistake. Suddenly a deep vibration shook the shuttle. Lyra looked at the screen. One of the largest VHI command ships was still active. It had avoided the sabotage drones. And now it was turning its massive weapons toward the refugee platform. They're going to destroy the station, she shouted. Thousands of refugees were still boarding evacuation ships. They would never escape in time. Lyra felt the familiar weight of fear returning. But Elias didn't panic. Instead, he opened a new communication channel. Admiral Reyes, he said. Now would be a good moment. The reply came instantly. Already on it. Far beyond the battlefield, space suddenly warped. A massive human vessel appeared from hyperspace. It was unlike any ship Lyra had ever seen. Long, dark, covered with strange antenna arrays and enormous circular engines. The VHI command ship fired its weapon. But the beam never reached its target. The human vessel released a pulse of energy that spread across space like a silent wave. Every electronic system inside the VHI flagship shut down instantly. The giant warship froze. Completely powerless. Lyra stared in amazement. What was that? Elias grinned proudly. Human Science Project. A simple whisper that changed everything. Minutes later, evacuation ships filled the sky around the refugee platform. Thousands of civilians were finally leaving the war zone. Safe. Alive. The VHI fleet drifted helplessly while human vessels secured the area. Lyra sat quietly in the shuttle while watching the rescue. Her home world was still scarred. The war had taken almost everything from her. But something new had appeared in its place. Possibility. She turned toward Elias. You changed the war. He shook his head gently. No. We just reminded the galaxy of something important. What? Elias looked back toward the refugees boarding the ships. And he repeated the same quiet words he had spoken earlier. The words that had started everything. Come with me. Then he added one more sentence. Humans don't leave people behind.
Pues, güey. Ah, es Elf, güey. Ah, vete a la verga.
Qué amable es la gente.
Sí, güey, son muy buen pedo, güey. Todos son muy buen pedo, güey, la verdad. O sea, es muy raro, güey, que un cosplayer
Pendejo no sabe leer. Buenas gente, hoy tuve un evento. Tuve que dar un curso en un lugar muy chulo.
Ah, güey, ¿cómo te fue, güey? ¿Todo bien? O sea, es muy raro, güey, que un cosplayer te mande a la verga, güey. Es muy raro, güey. Como el vato que tenía las dos armas que nos mandó a la chingada. A lo mejor estaba enojado el güey. Ah, qué bonito cosplay. Pero sí, es muy raro, güey. Es muy raro, güey. Vamos con los elfos. Porque no me quiero chingar una turbochela. Porque si me chingo la turbochela voy a dormitar. Y va a valer más 3. Pokémon.
you go. I appreciate it.
Well, one last question. How much Avatar and the Turtles?
The turtle, this is a collector's box, so you're going to get some really nice cards in this. Okay. But this is
Literally any travel, like I feel it's illegal to be collecting Pokemon and still not even have my
Play boosters, they still have a bunch of Avatar cards, just like all Avatar. But they're not going to be as special as like a collector's booster, which I am hyping up. We don't even have it. But yeah, this is, yeah. But if with this play booster or the collecting booster, you have a chance to potentially get.
¿Me compras algo, Jera? No se me.
No. Soy pobre.